What's your NSFW college story? Story 1. A girl bet a friend of mine that if he could eat 18 ice cream Snicker bars in 30 minutes, she would give him a b****. He finished in 18. She backed out of the deal, so all he won was the admiration of his peers and a massive stomachache. The same friend almost got kicked out of school for crapping on the bra of a girl from our dorm. The details are not terribly important. He had a student affairs trial and had to testify about pooping on the bra in front of all these university higher-ups and what he learned from it. A lot of the people on our floor went in support to testify, essentially saying, sure, he crapped on the bra, but he's a good guy. I felt terrible because he only took that decisive dump because I told him it would be funny. Story 2. Had a dorm mate who is a virgin and we were at a frat party. He had not been feeling well but really wanted to go. He had low self-confidence, and this emo-goth chubby chick started talking to him. We tried to talk him out of leaving with her, but to no avail. He was back in less than half an hour, dressed, wet hair, and you could see he'd been crying. Supposedly they got back to a single dorm, and she had clear plastic bed sheets. So they started messing around and he's exploring her nervously. I guess at some point he straddled her and she was playing with his while f***ing herself. She then moved her hand up and slid her loved finger in his and it caused him to just crap all over her from being ill to begin with. He was mortified and jumped off her, and then turned around to see her taking his crap and smearing herself with it. He tied his shirt around his waist and bolted, leaving everything else behind, and ran into the dorm showers one floor down to rinse his butt off and then sauntered back to us. We felt too bad for him to even tease him about it. Story 3. I had a part-time on-campus job as night manager for the college coffee shop, with responsibility for baking all the cookies for the day. One night as I was cleaning the work area after the shop was closed and my co-workers were gone, my very kinky girlfriend stopped by, closed the door to the work area, and showed me her lack of underwear. We proceeded to on the work table where cookies get made. Later that month we in the coffee shop itself after hours while a big college dance party was taking place, literally right next door. Said very kinky girlfriend is now my wife. Just celebrated 25 years. Story 4. I went to college in Minneapolis and worked at a convenience store across the street from my apartment. One day, these two Japanese girls brought a bunch of ice cream to my counter, and we talked for a bit. I found out that they were visiting from Osaka and disliked the girl they were crashing with because she was boring, so I invited them out to see a local band at First Avenue. We ended up having a great time and went back to my place to party more. My friend Mike, who is with us, went home eventually and the girls jumped on me as soon as I locked the door. We up and the whole time I was in disbelief, because for a white guy having a threesome with two Japanese girls is cartoon-level bucket list. Also having a threesome wasn't as intimidating as I always thought. I had just thrown out all my furniture including a couch and bed, because some a-hole put a great-looking couch, riddled with bed bugs by the dumpster with no sign, and I unknowingly brought it to my apartment. We had all crashed in a pile of blankets and sleep pads after fooling around. I was worried that in the morning I would have to explain to the girls and they would run away grossed out, but they were totally cool and understanding. They hated the girl they were supposed to be staying with so much that they ended up bringing all their luggage down to my place to stay with me in my unfurnished apartment. They stayed the rest of their time in Minneapolis with me and cleaned my apartment, bought me booze, and cooked delicious Japanese stew for me. I offered to drive them to the airport, as it was the least I could do. On the way to the highway, one of them made me pull over at a furniture store and bought me a damn futon in bed. Best thing that ever happened to me in college. If you're out there, thank you, Mamma Mia now. Story 5. A couple of girls on my floor were going to a dance one night. I didn't go as I had work early the next morning, so I helped out with hair, makeup, and a variety of other things before going back to my room to watch a movie. As I was sitting on my bed watching my film, the door opened. A random guy came in and took off his pants. I was a bit shocked and confused, so I didn't manage to say anything while he was undressing. As soon as his pants were on the ground, I managed to speak up. I told him, wrong room, and he looked around, pulled up his pants, and just left. Story 6. I was kind of seeing this girl who lived in my dorm freshman year, but all we did was fool around and she never wanted to go all the way. It was frustrating because she was really cute, and I was a frisky 18-year-old. One time we went out and got plastered, and went back to her place. We like to fool around in the shower, so we hit the showers drunk as hell. I'm trying my best to go all the way, but it's not happening, so I throw out a Hail Mary and asked her if she would go out with me. Well, my drunk was surprised when she said yes, and that got her to me. I wake up the next morning hungover, and not remembering much, but then I hear a good morning boyfriend, and it's her laying right next to me. Pretty sure I was still drunk and said, What boyfriend? She stormed out of there in an instant, and that is the shortest relationship I'd ever been in. Story 7. All right, first year uni in the dorms. This girl asks me to buy some tequila for her. Cool. Show up at her place with 7 beers and a bottle of tequila. Some of her friends are there as well. We start doing shots of tequila, and I hate tequila, so I'm basically pounding my beer to get rid of the taste. We finish the bottle and I'm finished all my beers in under 2 hours. My last memory is the group leaving her dorm. I was informed the next day that we all went back to my dorm. I started making out with the ugly girl in the group, so everyone leaves and I ended up b***ing her. At one point my friend finds me in the bathroom trying to take a rubber off. I ask him for help. He declines and tells me to get back in there and finish what I'm doing. I do. Then my roommate comes back and just barges in, sees me going to town on this miniature troll, and runs out. I run after him into another dorm room with like 6 people in it. Me standing there naked except for a rubber, tell my roommate to come back. So I have an excuse to kick the girl out, he does. I then walk around naked trying to get people to smell my fingers, and most decline. I'm then caught rubbing my eye with said finger, followed by being grossed out that I was doing that. Eventually, I put some pants on and end the night laying in bed with this super cute blonde hand feeding her M&Ms with the fingers I had been getting everyone to smell. Story 8. Me and the girlfriend at the time were super frisky, but my roommate was in the room and asleep, so we went exploring to find a spot to do the dirty. We end up finding a spot in a nook in the downstairs bathroom. We turned off the lights, put a towel down, and went to town. Halfway through, someone comes in to take a pee. She's riding me at the time, so we freesy and just wait for him to leave. We finished our business and left undetected. Story 9. I was a member of a club called High Society, which was pretty much a drug distribution organization funded unknowingly by the university. Once a year, we would have a boat cruise on the river, where we would consume drugs at an alarming rate while singing songs that mocked the police who would follow us to the riverbank waiting for us to disembark. The trick was to make sure anything illegal was disposed of before they boarded. I'm convinced we are a big reason there now exists a water police division in our city. There was also the anatomy student who stole a dong from the cadaver lab and freaked out a bunch of dudes in a pub toilet by floating it down the urinal. Pretty sure he faced criminal charges, but escaped jail time. Story 10. So a guy in my frat had walked onto the football team but quit or scrubbed out after freshman year. He was still buddies with a bunch of football players though. Walken was friends with this girl from his hometown, who is also a student. She was moderately attractive. The freshman 15 had definitely done its work, but she still had huge breasts that she always displayed prominently. She was also a big partier and had the reputation of being easy. Several guys in my frat had slept with her, and people were making fun of them because they always rumors, jokes, whatever that she had STDs from getting gang-banged by Walken's football buddies. But I always assumed that was just giving people crap, so I'm down in the college town over the summer and me Walken and another frat bro are hanging out one evening at a house Walken was renting with some football buddies. We're drinking and playing cards, having decided that we wouldn't go out that evening. Girl and 3 football players show up. I knew girl from her hanging around our frat parties and kinda knew the football players through Walken. They were all linemen, i.e. fat 300+ pound dudes. They had been at a bar nearby and had come over to do some coke, so they all start snorting coke and we continue drinking. It was the summer and hot as hell. One of the football players cranks the music and they proceed to strip down to their underwear and just dance around. Girl also strips down to her thong and is dancing around, etc. It wasn't like a strip show or anything, but she was teasing people, like rubbing her in people's faces and kind of grinding on some of us that were sitting down. Anyways, after a while one of the football players takes her to a bedroom. We start hearing noises and laugh about it, but then a couple minutes later, the other 2 football players head off to the room. Me and the second frack, I look at Walken and he just kinda grins and throws up his hands. The rumors were true, so Walken is like, come on, let's check this out. We go to the bedroom door and one of the football guys is laying on the bed with girl rocking on top of him. A second is getting by her, and the third one is kind of just standing in the corner trying to it, but looking like he's not having much success. Walken proceeds to drop his trousers. Me and the second frapro decide that we don't need to see the girl get plowed by these 4 fat dudes and proceed to the kitchen to continue drinking. At some point the guy who was trying to get it up storms out of the room yelling to high hell and barges out the back door. Later a second football guy leaves the room and stumbles to what I assume was his bedroom. Then the girl walks out to the kitchen, but grabs a bottle of booze and takes a big pull. Walken comes out and said the third football player passed out. We drink some shots and whatnot all while the girl was just standing around but did. Eventually she says to me and the second frat bro something like, "So do you guys want to turn before I pass out?" Given the likelihood of catching an STD and the lurking discontent of having seen those four dudes I politely decline, as does the second frat bro. So walk-in tells girl he wants a second round, and they head to his bedroom while we head home. The end. Story 11. So the first girl I went on a date with in college turned out to be pretty freaky, which to me was a plus. She talked about the tricks she had, and I was excited about the possibility of us sleeping together until we were playing truth or dare with each other. And a story came out about how she let her dog lick peanut butter off of her kitty. I never talked to her again after that, and every time I saw her after that, I just thought about her and the dog. Story 12. In the mid-90s, I was installing network cards for dorms connecting to the brand new 10100 switch network, super fast upgrade over the old 10base2 network. Anyway, I walk into a dorm to assist a really lovely, really nice girl. Got her connected, got the novel Client 32 software installed, got her connected to the mapped drives, and she just kept scooting closer and closer, and she smelled great. A few minutes later, her roomie strolls in from the shower, looks at me, then drops the bathrobe and starts strolling around in the with me, desperately trying to be professional and not look. Her friend sitting next to me so close that her legs were touching just shakes her head and pats me on the knee. I was wearing shorts. Then she leaves her hand there. A minute later, she stands up, faces me, unbuttons blouse and removes bra. Then, only buttons. One button on blouse. One button. In that instant, she was so much more attractive than the fully roomie, which is what I told her. She said that I was sweet, gave me a 50 tip, then said her boyfriend was going to be there any minute. I was too confused to tell her I couldn't take a tip, and when I turned around, after exiting her room, she took her blouse off completely, blew me a kiss, then closed the door. I was very confused and had trouble walking out. It was uncomfortable in my pants, and to be honest, my heart felt like it was going to explode. I only ever saw her once more a couple of months later, but didn't think she would recognize me, so I didn't say anything. I was at the local pizza parlor a couple of places in line behind her when it was my turn to order. The girl behind the counter said that my meal was already paid for. So weird. Story 13. I was in my freshman dorm with a buddy, and there was a party going on in another dorm. We proceeded to head over and had a few beers and decided to get high. One of the guys in the room was asking people if they wanted to do shrooms with him. I politely declined as he opened a bag and shoved what appeared to be at least an eighth into his mouth. We stayed for about another hour before someone suggested that we move the party into the orchard that was right next to the dorm building so we could smoke. So about 20 of us moved from this tiny dorm room outside. Only one of us decided to stay, Mushroom Guy. We asked him several times he wanted to come, and he said that he was fine, and he didn't want to go outside. So we enjoyed a few darts outside, and after about 45 minutes decided to go back to the dorm room. As we were walking up the stairs to the second floor, we smelled it before we saw it. We turned the corner to the hallway and saw Shroom Guy spread eagle on the ground, completely naked. And guess what? There was crap everywhere, on the floor, on the wall. It looks like he tried to make cave paintings on the walls with his own crap. He sees us and stands up and comes over and tries to hug us, but we say, "Stay back," because he has crap all over his hands and chest. His friends immediately beckoned him into the dorm room and throw him in the shower. My buddy and I immediately bolted back to our dorm room. I heard that the RAS found everything the morning after and were so pissed that they went door to door and threatened to get the crop tested for DNA unless someone fessed up. Shroom Guy eventually did tell the RA and was subsequently kicked out of the dorm. Story 14. All right, kid, buckle up. This goes from 0 to 100 real quick. Freshman year, my buddies and I were all hanging out in one of our dorm rooms, a big room, probably like 6 of us with room to spare. We got really high a bit earlier and decided to set up 3 Xbox 360s and TVs in the room and dominate some team deathmatch on COD. It was pretty fun, not gonna lie, and we ran house. Anyway, about an hour later, we get a knock on the door from our RA. Nothing unusual, they did a round on Fridays and Saturdays in the freshy dorms, but then we get a knock again like 5 minutes later. Also not unusual because sometimes the RAs would try and be sneaky by closely staggering the rounds. Only it wasn't an RA, it was about 12 people here for a party. Mostly chicks, good-looking chicks. Lights out, music blasting, and drinks poured, all before the door closed behind them. My friend and I kind of looked at each other, trying to figure out if anyone had invited other people over. I still don't know to this day, but screw it. They were all familiar faces on campus to me, so we put the controllers away and join in. Not long after, I go out for another Blaze Sash with a gorgeous-looking girl, and we come back to some people doing body shots off of 3 girls. My new smoking buddy just starts giggling, and I had never seen it before. 2 of the drinkers were my friends, so I cheer them on because I thank you, cheer people who do that. Other people were maybe. I don't know, who cares. I'm far gone at this point, so I have a seat in my favorite chair in the corner, down a shot of something, crack a beer, and just kind of settle in. Next thing I know, I'm getting a lap dance for my cute smoking buddy. My ye feishi. Oh, I was loving it. Then off goes her top. All right. I guess everyone is watching me pitch a tent because this girl was packing. But then a few other girls take their tops off too. I'm spaced out, watching these jugs jiggle around the room. I'm sure most of the guys were. Clothes start flying off here, there, and everywhere. I'm zoned out watching all these beautiful rando girls just frolicking around in my friend's room. I snap back to reality when I hear moaning close to my ear. One of the rando girls is getting plowed by one of the rando guys up again against the wall. Then another, then another. In my drunk stupor, I look around and witness an orgy unfold in my friend's room. People on the bed, people on the floor, people on the walls, friends and random alike. They would have been banging on the ceiling if they could. Then I realize I am the only person with clothes on. Okay, so do I join in? No, you see, getting drunk is like autism. It's all on a spectrum, and unfortunately for me, I was well beyond the point of whiskey dong drunk teetering on, brownout. I get up to leave, but then a cute smoking buddy I was with earlier, now and sweaty, sits me back down and tries giving me head. Sorry, babe, we got a man down tonight. So instead, she curls up in my lap and makes out with me. Probably the cutest thing anyone has ever done for me in my life. I tell her to go get a blunt ready, she does. Comes and curls back up in my lap, and I start stroking her hair like some pet. Disregarding school policy and smoke alarms, I crack a window and start smoking away, as I sat there and watched a sea of bodies nut all over each other. I felt like a King Story 15. This one happened to my best friend, and it makes me laugh every time he tells this story. So he was at a party, you know, those wild parties with big 10-gallon jugs filled with God knows what. Well, he finds this girl, they flirt, and they end up leaving together. They get back to his place and clothes come off, and they start bumping uglies. At some point, the girl, who is on top, sits up, pulls back her arm, and delivers a solid right hook. He yells, "What the hell?" And she just sits there kind of like, "What? I thought you were into that kind of thing." They proceed to finish, and he asks her to leave. He said he kept an eye on her hands the whole time. Story 16. At a bar with some friends one night, they went in to get some shots while I watched the table. Pretty girl in a really nice club outfit and collar, which I quite like, is sitting across from me at another table doing the same. We make eye contact and she smiles. Happens a couple of times. She taps the chair next to her, inviting me over. So I do. I never get flirted with, so I'm excited at this point. Sit down. Music is super loud. I can't hear a thing she's saying, but I try to pass it off like I can and make small talk. Next thing I know, when I turn my head to talk to her, she's jamming her tongue in my mouth. Hell yes. When there's a lull in the music, she whispers to me, "Do you want to get out of here?" Yape. We leave notes for our friends on the tables. This is the mid-90s and hop in a cab. She shows the driver her student ID so he knows where to go. We're making out the whole time and just about to get down to it in the cab when he pulls up to the dorm. Get inside, no words spoken. We get to her room and on her bed and just start going all out. I'm going down on her, and she starts breathing super heavily, like she sounded like she was hyperventilating. It was bad. I took my heat up to ask her if she was okay, but she just pushed it back down. Fair enough. Then it just got worse. She started sounding like a bit of an idling chainsaw, and it was freaking me out a bit. So then she pulls me up and whispers in my ear, asking me if I have a rubber. Unfortunately, I don't. Neither does she, damn it. So there was no hot dog in the tuna town that night. So I just kept going to town until she got off sounding like a boat motor, and then we both passed out. Next morning we wake up, she's getting dressed and nudges me. I hear a whisper, "You have to go, my roommates will be here soon." I open my eyes and I'm like, what the? She's standing there still looking pretty as F, but the sun was now shining in the window, and that collar she had on not a collar. It was a track. Shame it didn't work out better. She seemed pretty awesome. Story 17. Blackout drunk. Went roaming around the apartment complex. Found a small, low-key party. Fat girl, no less than 300 pounds, was sober, or at least no more than 2 beers. Got me to go into a room, ate her out. Never told me she was on her period. Too drunk to even realize. Woke up with blood all over my hand. It in her bed. Couldn't find my underwear, with only shorts on, ran out of the house. Never talked to her again. She somehow found me on Facebook. She is in Facebook jail currently. Story 18. We had a handcuffed terrorist party at my roommate's girlfriend's house for her birthday. It was basically pairs of people dressed as terrorists, sharing fifths between each other while zip-tied together. Finish the drink and you're free. Many things went wrong. I got stabbed in the face right below my eye when my friend was trying to cut the zip tie off with a knife. We started a bonfire in the backyard using lawn furniture and lighter fluid. We splattered her roommate's expensive shampoo all over the fridge and used hairspray and a lighter to make a torch. We were playing WrestleMania 21 on the TV at max volume the whole time. Her roommate called her dad, who came and tried to kick everyone out. He grabbed and pushed my roommate, which led to my friends tackling the dad, as the dad was screaming at my friend. He yelled at the dad, "I do coke with your daughter?" My roommate's girlfriend was kicked out of the house. Story 19. I once had to pick up a buddy of mine from a whorehouse when he passed out drunk while mid with an Argentinian prostitute. The prostitute just looked at me and asked, "Should I finish?" Anyway, he now married and super Christian. Story 20. Had an exchange student at the end of the year tell me she always thought I was attractive but never made a move because it was illegal for her to have any romance with someone from the US. Not sure what that was about. We partied the night before she had to leave. At 3:45 she texted me, "Let's do this." I leave for the airport in 30 minutes. She walked over, threw a latex at me, said let's do it. Did it. She left and went back to Sweden. God, was I in love with that. Story 21. I'm still in high school, but this is my father's story. There was a ceiling fan in the family room of the house where I lived in university. There was also a stuffed mallard duck on the mantelpiece above the fireplace. Whenever my roommates had dinner or beer in the family room, one of us, especially Greg, would throw the duck into the rotating ceiling fan and watch it shoot off in a random direction, all the while shouting, "Duck in the fan!" Ah, good times. Side note, I don't know who Greg is. Story 22. We switched our physics professor's chair out with a desk. I go to a community college. Story 23. Dated a journalism major for a while. Really wanted to be a TV news anchor of some sort, and I promise this will become a mildly relevant fact. One night she took me back to her place after a date, and we played a board game of some sort. Had a good time, got up to go. She slammed me against the wall and started rubbing my other head, looked me dead in the eye, slapped me and said, "You're bluing your two pump dump," all over the back of my throat. Never lost eye contact, and it was an intense look. It wasn't a request. It was a pure statement of fact that I would follow. She then gave me the most intense job I've ever had. My knees buckled as I finished, and I went crashing to the floor in a pathetic heap. I was helped to the couch, given a glass of water, and again told, "You have 45 minutes to recover." We played another round of our game, and I was manhandled into the bedroom, where she climbed on top and used me as she saw fit for her needs. When she had finished, she gave me that intense look again and just started going. Not going for her anymore, going for me. And holy shot did she go. I had never before, nor ever since, been ridden like that. She knew exactly what was happening at every moment, and when she could feel me building up, she leaned down and whispered, "This just in," and I blew my baby batter all over her insides. You finished gloriously. I don't think I miss any girl as much as I miss her. She'd get a look in her eye, and I knew it was fleshy doldo time for me, and I would be rewarded generously. Story 24. Okay, so I dropped out of college, then went back when I was 22. There was this 17-year-old that I hit it off with. UK, so it's cool. And I invited her to a party because she acted really mature. Everyone at the party was my age, and my 2-year-old niece was there. So she gets 17-year-old shit-faced and nearly hurts my niece multiple times because kids love me. Not this one. So I pawn her off on my friend. Do the best wing manning of my life because this girl was straight after Tej Jackanory Duck. Anyways, my friend put his thumb in her bum and his brother walked in on it. All he said was fair enough and shut the door. Story 25. Okay, so this is the story of when I almost got caught. So one morning, my ex picks me up and drives me to college courses, which is nice, but she had a little contract. I had to at least f her before heading to class. Context. I get busy with education shot, and she has needs. That day was one of those needs. She pulls up at 5 a.m. Class starts at 9 a.m. We get driving to the outskirts of the college. We pull up and we get it going on almost immediately. We then hear a police siren and immediately putting up on our clothes and kept my shirt off and lay down on the different sides of the car, but fair away from each other. Note that the heater was still on for the car, so we were somewhat warm. Campus police got on our asses for trespassing and not on fuging on school grounds, like we fear they will. Story 26. When my girlfriend was still living in a dorm, we lived an hour apart and only saw each other on weekends. I would travel up and we would hang out. One day we were beating shag carpets together when sudden the fire alarm went off. We ended up scrambling for clothes as the RA ran down the hall, yelling about how the fire was spreading quickly. When the whole building was finally evacuated, firefighters examined the building and found a scorched table smashed to pieces, with charred AV equipment lying around it. Apparently something similar to this occurred in 1998, when The Undertaker threw Mankind off Hell in a Cell and plummeted 16 FT through an announcer's table. Story 27. I had a really old pair of condoms that never got used. I hate that I have to write that. And didn't realize that after 9 months, condoms collect a certain smell. I had a roommate that was really easygoing on the same floor as me, so I opened one up and laid it in front of his door and retired back to my room. I then heard his door open, followed by a pause and him saying, "Oh my God." He picked up the condom to my room where my cousin and I were hanging out. He was also in on it. Immediately, me and my cousin start crying from laughter, to the point where we found all 3 of us laughing the night away. Story 28. One of my old roommates and I went to a party with a couple of girls that lived in some nearby dorms. We had partied multiple times with these girls, and this time my roommate and one of the chicas were hornier than usual. They fondled on the car ride back to the dorms and ended up. Morning comes and he walks back into our dorm room with red blood smeared all over his face and cheeks. This came to be known as red wings, and every once in a while I'll hear that term, and it brings disgust to my soul. Story 29. So my story was back in my junior year of college. We were celebrating one of my friend's 21st birthday. She was raised fairly strictly religious, but when she went to college she was like, screw that, I'm done. So for her 21st, we all go out, and she just gets absolutely hammered. Like to the point that I was considering just picking her up and carrying her into her house because she was having so much trouble putting one foot in front of the other. Because I had known her most of my life, and she was like a little sister to me pretty much. I guided her to her bed, put a trash can next to her, and made sure she found her way under the covers, fully clothed, then went back out to the main room to hang with the rest of the group while the night wound down, being sure to keep an eye on her door. I was raised that if you get someone wasted, you are responsible for making sure they are all right and nothing bad happens to them. Fast forward 30 minutes, and the door to her bedroom just flings open. It had so much force that when it slammed into the wall, it didn't bounce. The knob just embedded itself into the wall, and there she was standing, buck naked. The entire party just froze and stared at her for a second, and then she just started sprinting down the hall like she was running in the Olympics or something. She made it about 7 steps when she went flying, and landed perfectly on her hands and knees. She just stayed there like that for a bit, then crawled the rest of the way to the bathroom. Story 30. In my first semester of college, about 3 weeks in, met this girl that at a friend's party, and we were hitting it off from the start. First time a girl was really hitting on me instead of the other way around. This girl was obviously very fit, and I later found out she was on the lacrosse team there. We had a couple drinks, and in little to no time, we headed back to my room to roll around in the sheets. I had a roommate at the time that was a very strange individual who spent more time on Minecraft than anything else, often rage screaming at his computer screen. Prior to the start of school, I tried to email him and get his contact information so we could chat. I was just trying to be friendly. He sends me an email back that just says, "See you when we get to school." Very antisocial. Anyways, I get back to the room and no sign of the roommate, which is unusual. So the girl and I immediately start to go at it. About 30 minutes in, we hear someone fidgeting at the door. It was the roommate. I kind of freeze up and don't know what to do. He walks in shirtless, maybe coming from the shower, still not sure, but is almost in a dazed trance and immediately goes to bed. Meanwhile, this girl is still gyrating on top of me, simply will not stop for even a second. Within a minute, I hear my roommate snoring and she whispers in my ear, "Don't stop," so we keep going. This is also my first real experience with whiskey dick, so we went on for about 2 more hours. Suddenly some light shines in the room in such a way that I can somewhat see my roommate sleeping, only to realize that he's not, and he's just staring at the 2 of us going at it. So I told the girl that I thought she and I were being watched by my roommate. She just says she doesn't care, and we keep going. Finally, we finish, and I just see him roll over and turn around only to hear him snoring again about 5 minutes later. Next morning comes around and I walk the girl back to her dorm. All is well, I guess, but when I get back, my roommate just says, She had nice tits and just kept going. Will she have me later? I'll let you watch this time. Story 31. After a long night of hanging out with friends, I went back to my dorm room to get some rest for the next day. My roommate was already in bed, but not fully asleep yet. A moment after I walked in, I began to get undressed to prepare for a shower. My roommate and I made some small talk while he was facing the opposite direction of me. I just took off my boxers, hanging loose, and my roommate all of a sudden says, "Oh, by the way, this is Angie." A girl I have never seen in my life appears from under the sheets and makes eye contact with me while I was butt-ass naked. Story 32. Not related, but defiantly one of the craziest nights of my undergraduate years. I refer to this summer as that summer. In short, my apartment always had something in it. Weed, coke, blotters, Molly, and alcohol, of course. Well, one night, a couple I know are dropping more than they have ever dropped before. Long story short is they both flip out just as I am joining them. This leads me and another one of my friends heading back to my place after I start down the rabbit hole. Once I am back at my place, a party starts to develop very similar to the one I just left. To give you a frame of reference, the apartment looked like your neighbor hole in the ground, where people go to do drugs, strobe lights, and the works. Well, push comes to shove, and the night starts to spiral out of control. We begin to consume everything that is around, believing that the police might be stopping in due to our friends talking. They were arrested. There were 50+ blotters at the beginning of the night, gone by sunrise, as well as a handful of tabs. I always look back on this night and laugh at my memories of the galaxy swirling in our tray of crushed tabs and the crazy things my friends did. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this next video. The YouTube algorithm really thinks you like it.